Okay. Hello. Hi. My name is Shane Brody. I've been traveling around the country talking to trans, non-binary, gender non-conforming, neutrois, agender, intersex people and parents and some allies, and it's been really cool. Today we're in Eastern Washington, and ding, Eastern Washington, ding, and that reminds me I need to turn that off. But I'm here with a couple of guests, and they're going to introduce themselves while I turn off my phone.
My name is Sam Lee. I don't know what I would label myself necessarily right now. Used to be trans non-binary, but I think I'm leaning more towards gender non-conforming or agender.
Okay.
Pronouns are they, them.
Have you ever heard of that term neutrois?
I have not.
Okay, yeah, it was new for me too. Yeah. How about you?
My name is Yara Weller, and I identify as trans agender.
Okay.
I am a parent of two.
Yeah. Yeah, I met one of those cuties earlier.
Yeah.
Very, very cute and very loud. Yeah.
Those are mine.
Yeah, I really love loud kids because it shows like how like healthy they are. Mm-hmm. You know, they want to express themselves and they're like, woo, that's really direct, you know?
Yes.
Like I was really quiet as a kid, and, you know, people should have like poked me a little bit, like, what's going on with you, you know?
Do you feel free?
Yeah.
Do you feel free?
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, that's what we're going for, to have them feel free and loved.
Yeah. Speaking of that, what do you think is your parenting style, I guess, just in general?
Well, my kids are a little bit feral, but also I try to do attachment parenting as much as I can.
Is that like a theory?
Yeah,
okay.
I allow them to be on my person a lot more than you do in other situations. Okay. And I try and do gentle parenting where I allow them to have their emotions and to speak to me about them. It gets a little patience trying, but I think in the long run it's going to be worth it, because my goal is to have, when all of the things that come up throughout life happen, I want my children to know that no matter what it is, they can talk to me about it. So that's like the end goal for me with my children.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the work now to get them there.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Thanks.
Are you also, I mean, I'm thinking about like, you know, how you're creating this base of safety for them and also like being functional in the world. But then also there's probably like a lot of pressures on the outside world that they're going to experience. What kind of things might you be preparing your kids for?
Well, I'm trying to prepare them for all of it,
Okay.
but just what I've been trying to do is at least make them feel as like secure at home, so that when people and the outside world are mean to them or say things that are hurtful, which has happened with my oldest, who's 8 now, they have enough reserve that it's kind of okay. And then they know that they can come home or to a safe place and recharge, and that I will always be that safe place for them to recharge at.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and create like Sam and other people around them who love them and they know have their backs. People who that they know have their backs. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you doing any co-parenting or within a community, that sort of thing?
We're building a co-parenting community right now.
Okay.
Their parent is a little bit absent right now, their other parent, but I think that they're going to be back soon.
Okay.
And right now we have not stand-ins, but other helpers who are helping out a lot, which is what our community is.
Yeah.
And the community that I feel like we're all trying to build is a place where the children and the, people who are not as emotionally secure have a place where they can feel safe too.
Okay, so you're talking about adults as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so people often don't think of that like a place for adults to feel emotionally secure, because once you get to adulthood, it's like, whoop, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Too bad. We're so individualistic here in this country, right?
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's healthy for us.
How are you remedying that? Because it sounds pretty radical.
Well, one of the things we're doing is we're kind of building a queer community in this house.
Yeah.
With a group of queer adults who all want to be a part of each other's lives and these children's lives. Yeah. And I feel like that's a start.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Be very careful about the table. No, it's okay. You just gesticulate a lot.
Yeah, I'm one of those. I'm sorry. I am one of those people.
It's okay. Yes. I am as well. Oh. So sometimes I have to
I'll sit on my hands.
It's weird being loose and stiff at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll work on it though.
So what do you think about that? You're involved in this. What is your role here? And I guess do you get something out of what do you get about? What do you get out of being in a community like this? Because it sounds like a community that you've built here.
Yeah, we're trying for that. I think initially when my partner and I bought this house.
Oh, you own it.
Yes.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, we own it.
It's such a great house. It seems like an older house, and it's in really great shape. And old trees out here. Wonderful.
It's really old. So that's been great to find out all of its quirks and charms.
Oh, yes. There's that too, yeah.
But we didn't want this space to be just ours. We're not interested in participating in an individualistic, capitalistic system. And we want to participate in resistance as much as possible. So while we're still having to work within the framework, we want to make it as radical as possible. Yeah. And so that is why Yaro is a co-owner. It's why another one of our friends is a co-owner. That's why this is a safe haven for anybody that is harmed by our systems of oppression to come into this house and rebuild and feel safe. Yeah. Like Yara was saying, it's about those attachment styles. And we want people to have an opportunity to have a secure and earned secure attachment style.
Yeah. Yeah. When you say earned, what do you mean by that?
People that have not previously had secure attachment styles have to relearn or initially learn how to attach to other people in a way that feels safe to them.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily like somebody has to earn their keep or their value, but that they inherently have value and have the opportunity to learn how to trust other people that should be trusted.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. I love it that you're so radical. I mean, this is like radical stuff that you're talking about here. And maybe for you, it seems like, oh, old hat or something, like you've been going through this for a long time. I can tell that you've done some building, right, within yourselves. But for other people probably listening on the outside, it's like, wow, what's going on here? I was wondering, how did you all grow up, and who may have, what kind of experiences may have inspired you to go in this direction? Because not a lot of people do this sort of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay, well, I grew up in a very large and accepting family. Yeah. I have a lot of people around me, with a lot of people who were in my life, but very, very Catholic.
Oh, okay.
Yes. But with the Catholicism, I have a lot of queer folk in my family, and there's to varying degrees acceptance for that. And in our family, we've kind of weeded out the ones who don't want to be there. And
what kind of Catholicism, by the way?
Roman Catholic.
Okay, so they're very conservative.
And we have priests in my family.
Oh.
Yeah, we're super Catholic. I went to Catholic school my entire childhood.
I did notice that there was a cathedral on the hill, and it's very yeah, there's a cathedral on the hill.
Yes, yes, there is.
Yeah.
Yep, it is a Catholic town.
Yes.
Yes, it is. They are very into that.
Yeah.
And I was a part of that.
Okay.
Kind of. I never
Yeah.
really bought into it. My whole childhood, it was never something that I felt like resonated with me.
Okay.
So it wasn't that surprising that as I grew into adulthood, I
Yeah.
was like, I'm not going to do this anymore.
So when you were at church, though, what would you do? I mean, or what were you thinking?
I was mostly trying to think of ways to kneel that were more interesting than what I was doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's mostly what I was doing.
Okay.
Yeah. Or I was like looking around and kind of being like, ooh, that person's cute. What's going on over there? I was not a good Catholic child.
Okay.
Or maybe I was. I don't know.
Did you enjoy any aspect of it? Like, for instance, the music?
Yes.
I really love the music.
Exactly. I'm
Yeah.
a singer, and my mom is also a singer,
Yeah.
and she did a lot of music. So as I grew older,
Okay.
I would do the singing with
Yeah.
it. And then my sister and I both, who are both now atheists, we would do whatever we could to have something to do during church.
Okay.
So I was an altar
So
girl.
lots of volunteering.
Yes, lots of volunteering. I was an altar kid. I did all that stuff.
That's great.
Because it gave me something to do.
But you looked so pious in doing it.
I did. I was very popular in the church, yes.
Oh,
And then I turned 18 and was like, well, I'm never going to do this again. Thanks. Bye. And have not gone back since.
Okay.
And my birthday is a holy day of obligation. So I had to go to church every year on my birthday. And I will never go to church on my birthday again.
Okay. Yeah, well, you have a choice. You know
Yeah. Now that I have a choice, I haven't been back.
Okay.
And I don't make my kids go.
Okay. So, do you have another kind of spirituality that you follow now, or are you more agnostic or atheist, or?
I'm an atheist, and
Okay.
I believe in myself.
Okay, there you go.
I work really hard to get things done, and then they get done or they don't, but it's all on me.
Okay,
Well, and my people, but
sure.
it's human beings that are doing the work in this world for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Awesome. I'm fucking loving this interview here. So I was wondering about you as well. Are there any sort of formative experiences, like in your, younger years, that led you to more? I would say I would call it a more radical path.
So I come from a blended family, and my parents are Korean immigrants. And so while I didn't have a secure attachment growing up, and so that wasn't modeled to me, I do think I learned a lot from watching my family's experiences and having to be witness to that. And
Are you talking about racism and that sort of
yes.
thing? Yeah. Yeah.
So the racism and the xenophobia that they experienced, and watching them go through trying to be a citizen in the U.S. when I was growing up.
Right.
It was really difficult for them. And so that stressor obviously perpetuated a lot of probably unhealed traumas of their own.
Yeah.
And also being myself as a neurodivergent, disabled, queer person, I think it led me to study a lot of social justice movements. And I really feel like I am an eternal student of disability movements.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I don't feel like I've ever really arrived, which can be, I feel like, a little bit nerve-wracking in a way. Sometimes I feel like I'm not enough. Also, that's kind of feeling that comes with it. But also, I feel like I need some forgiveness of myself that I'm always learning. I don't know. I don't know if you guys think about that, but
I definitely do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that as long as we are always curious and trying to come from a place of compassion and honestly decentering our experiences sometimes, especially myself as a white Asian person, I have to decenter myself in a lot of situations because I don't know everything.
Right.
And that's the part of being an eternal student, is that you have to know that and be okay with that. And when the times that you're not, that you take accountability for it and you go back and learn again.
Yeah. That's so hard too, because you have to admit doing things that are part of an oppressive culture. You have to being dominating or taking up too much room or there's so many ways to do it. There's so many ways to do it. I definitely struggle with that myself because I feel like I'm a very passionate person. But then if I try and do everything, then other people don't have a chance to do anything, right? Not good. That's not good politics.
No, and sometimes I find it's hard to recognize which part of the story is the one that needs to be told. Like sometimes it's not really your part.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like sometimes your best option in this situation is to sit back and say, okay, what's up? But it's hard to know that sometimes. Yeah. Until it's maybe a little too late.
Right.
So that's where you have to learn to take accountability.
Right. And to acknowledge the mistake. Yeah. And I noticed that, like, for me, it's really hard to, like, feel bad. To just feel bad and just, okay, just do it.
Just sit with those emotions.
Yeah.
Just sit with those emotions. Right. And also I feel for me, it's been something that I've been realizing that all of us have to do this. And if we don't actually look at the places where we are part of the problem, then nothing's ever going to change. Yeah. Like if we as a people can't just say, oh, actually, I do some of these things too. Yeah. The things I don't like and I don't want to do, I need to actually look at them and change them or they're not going to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think addressing the shame spirals that happen. If you have any kind of power, which most people have identities with power and oppression, those cycles of shame really need to be verbalized and addressed in any way possible. I feel like I need a community so I can talk to people and understand who is appropriate to talk to about that and who is not.
Can you give like a specific example of what you're talking about there?
Yeah, like for example, if I were anti-black towards a black person, I don't go to another black friend about that. I go to a white friend about that, or I go to a white Asian friend about that. It's not appropriate for me to go to somebody that is experiencing that oppression every day and then unload that emotional labor to them.
Yeah. So it would be traumatizing to the person that you were talking to. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, sometimes I'm talking to trans and non-binary and, just fabulously gendered people out in the world. And, there's so much that they have to deal with on a daily basis of people misgendering them or denying them healthcare and that sort of thing. And to then educate people on top of that, even if they're well-meaning, it can be too much. It can be too much.
Yeah.
And then if you have, thinking intersectionality here, if you have other things going on, like for instance, you're of an ethnic background that is not Caucasian, etc. If you don't have money, it's even more stress. Even more stress, I would imagine.
Yeah. Loads it on.
Yep.
It loads it on.
Yeah. I love it that you're thinking about capitalism and being in a community, and that you have to work within it and you're working against it at the same time. I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit more. Also from your perspective as a a primary parent.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of trial and error along the way. It is really awful to deal with the bureaucracy and trying to get a home loan. And I am white Asian. So it means that if it's hard for me, it will be even harder for Yarrow. Right? So, and anybody else that is unambiguously negatively racialized. And so, but especially for Black people in terms of the racism of real estate, right, historically.
They called it redlining.
Yes, that is what I'm referring to.
Would not give loans at all. Yeah.
They still don't.
Yeah.
Like, it still exists and happens frequently. Okay. Yeah. All over the country.
For some, sorry, I'm very naive. I thought that knowing about it would somehow get rid of it, but I guess not.
No.
Sorry.
Nope. Now they just do it and say we're not doing that. That we did in the past, but they are still doing it.
So they just cover it up better, I guess.
No,
not really. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Okay.
They just still do it and say they now just still do it and say they're not doing it.
Okay.
And then when they get called out, they say, "Oh, we won't do that anymore." And then they still just don't give home loans to black families, or black houses sell for less if there's like pictures of black people in them. Like black people have been advised to take their pictures out and put white people up.
Oh God.
Because then people will want to buy their house.
Yeah, I heard in some, actually in Portland, Oregon, which got gentrified so badly that there was a whole section of town called Albina, which was a black township within Portland. And now you go there, and very occasionally you would see like an elderly black woman at a bus stop. Everybody else is pretty much white and very young. So it got rapidly gentrified. It's a terrible history for the city that's kind of covert a little bit. But where was I going with that? Oh yeah, the thing I was going to bring up is I had a friend whose family was realtors, and so I got some perspective from her about this, and she was saying, yeah, what they do is they renamed MLK Boulevard, King Boulevard, to just the highway name, on the realty maps. And because people were very proud of having that name on, in their neighborhood, but they would rename it. And they would also, the realty companies would follow white lesbians to see where they were buying houses, because the queer white face was the front edge of gentrification, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to speak to that happening in Spokane, it's the freeway building that's happening in Hilliard, right?
Tell me about that. I don't know. Yeah.
Where to start?
I know this is a really bad history. I know that a long time ago they would build freeways right through very vibrant black communities.
Yeah, they're doing that.
Oh, that's what they're doing right now.
Yeah, they're doing that right now. Yeah. Yeah. You can tell the story if you would like.
It's okay. I don't feel like I'm an expert.
Okay. You don't have to be an expert. I mean, you're a person who lives here. Yeah. You're a homeowner, so you're part of it.
Yeah, I mean, they've been trying to build this freeway in the neighborhood of Hilliard, which is historically been. Spokane is a poor city. That's just flat out true. But also Hilliard is of lower socioeconomic background as well. And I'm not sure if it's historically been BIPOC people.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it has either.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it has either, but it's always been more marginalized people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they've been trying to build a freeway right in the middle of it for a long time, and that project, I can't say how many years, but it's the same kind of redlining, right? Yeah. That stuff happens in California too. It's happening here. It happens, as Yara said, happens all over the country still.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's almost like I've been doing a lot of traveling around, and I've seen smaller cities like this. Spokane is a smaller city, and a lot of them are having just a lot of problems. They're getting rid of low-income housing. I mean, just basically raising entire communities, or outside interests are coming and buying entire blocks.
That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
That is exactly what's happening here. And the low-income housing, with the way that the rent prices have gone up so high, the low-income housing is no longer actually available for people who would need actual low income. So if you have 4 kids and you're a single parent and it's just you working, and then the cheapest apartment you can get is a 2-bedroom for $900 a month, that's not really low income. That's kind of just like standard rate.
Yeah, I think they call that market-based low income.
Exactly.
Which that could mean anything.
Exactly.
It could mean really expensive.
Exactly. Yeah, and in Spokane right now, it is really expensive. Yeah. Like, it's almost easier if you can get the loan to buy a house than to rent an apartment.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah. So, I mean, people, my kid's other parent works full-time job, works 2 full-time jobs, cannot afford to get an apartment.
Yeah.
There are no apartments in their price range, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and I've been doing gig work to fund this project. So I go to a lot of places. I go to a lot of neighborhoods, a lot of apartment complexes and stuff. And I noticed there aren't a lot of apartment complexes, for one thing, and the ones that are here are really kind of run down, like really badly. No renovations or anything like that. And I'm imagining that even with that, they're still probably expensive because there just isn't a lot.
Exactly.
There aren't a lot of options.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of options.
Yeah.
And it seems like everything that they're building, it isn't for the average people. It's for the California doctors that are coming, or the Seattle people who've moved in here. COVID hit us hard with a lot of influx of.
Why? Why is that?
Because it actually before COVID, this was kind of a nice place to live in that it was what it was. But the one thing that was
what it was.
Yes,
Okay.
but the one thing that was nice about it
I
is
want to
that
hear about that though.
the rent prices were very reasonable.
Okay.
So right at the very beginning of COVID, my family was able to get a 2-bedroom apartment for $850.
Okay.
It was 1,000 square feet. It was
pretty
huge.
big.
Yeah, it was big. It was
Yeah.
beautiful. It was really a nice apartment. After COVID, or in the middle of COVID, that apartment now would probably be, what do you think? 15 at least?
Yeah.
1,500 at least at the low end.
Okay.
They could get more if they wanted
Okay.
to.
And probably it's becoming more like California, where you apply for a place and there's 50 people behind you waiting for the same thing.
At least you're lucky if it's just 50.
Oh,
we
really?
applied for a house maybe 4 months ago, and we were one of 1,000 applicants. And people were offering to pay double what they were asking.
Whoa.
And we can't afford to do that.
I did not know it was that bad. I mean, I'm talking about this, but I had no idea it was that bad. Wow. I've heard about that with houses. Like anything that goes on the market, like people are just throwing money. Here, I just want it. Here, take as much as you want.
And a lot of those people were from out of town,
Yeah,
or
right.
maybe not even going to live there.
Right.
A lot of people,
Investors,
investors would buy a house, or I heard that Zillow was buying up a lot of houses. Airbnb was buying up houses.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And so then you have on the South Hill where I was living prior to this house, in our neighborhood around us, there were 4 houses that were not being rented. They were all Airbnb houses.
Okay.
In the neighborhood, neighbors of my friends, but those are now houses that are off the market for people who live here in Spokane.
Right.
People who want to buy a house cannot buy a house on the South Hill. Like people like me who rented there and lived there for 5 years in a historically black neighborhood can now no longer afford to live there.
Wow.
Things like that.
Yeah, I have noticed the Airbnb thing, and I'm not sure what's going to fix that, right? Because it seems like the law is on their side or something like that.
Yeah.
But from what I've noticed in my experience of seeing it in California and as well as in Alaska, there are places where it's just kind of all Airbnbs, and there's no families. What are we doing to communities, like actual real communities, if everybody there is transient?
We're decimating them.
Yeah.
We're not building them. They do
No.
not exist anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That feels really desolate to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wonder where are people going, and it's very upsetting. I did notice here in Spokane, for such a small city too, there's a huge homeless population, and a lot of them seem like they're very disabled as well. So yeah, this city is having some problems. Speaking of that, and because you are more radical and you've done a lot of studies and you bring your values into the world and you make a manifest, what do you think would help this community? Just think of some ideas, because I am at a loss driving around and seeing what I've seen here. Some of the, real heavy poverty.
Mm-hmm.
I think getting the wealthy white conservatives out of office, it would be a great start. I think also something that I've been thinking about a lot is it's really difficult because local politics drives so much of what survives in the city. But something that, our mutual friend mentioned to me was that because of that, it's also really easy to start things. Not sustain, but start.
I agree there. I agree. Yeah.
And I think that is what we need, is radicals like us that care about sustaining it.
Yeah.
And there are some underground queer communities here, but it's catered to white people. And I think that's a huge issue. Especially queer, white, upper class, people. I don't need to go to a store and drop $300 to feel a part of a community just because the owners are queer.
Sure.
That's not within my line of politics.
You're talking about people who come in and have maybe fancy boutiques or something like that. Yeah. Actually, I did see that in Portland as well. Just to bring that up again, bringing organic dog food, like just organic dog food store into a historically black neighborhood that is, kind of barely getting by and being priced out.
Yeah.
So inappropriate.
Yes.
So inappropriate.
Yes.
Yeah.
That happens a lot here in Spokane also.
Yeah.
And I feel like the problem is that a lot of there are liberals and
Liberals.
Yeah. And other queer folk and queer communities around and people around allies who would like to be a part of what is being built. But I think that the loudest voice is still the white conservatives or the white liberals who just, I don't even know if they know or are aware of it, but they're drowning out the people who actually need to be heard at this point. And it might be time, especially in Spokane and Portland too, who has a lot of the same problems, I believe, to maybe sit back and hear what would be helpful instead of putting a dog food store and being like, but we're queer.
Yeah.
I mean, but we're trying to do the right thing. It's like, but you're not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I hear that you're trying to, but sometimes your intentions don't really matter.
Yeah.
It's like, what actually would help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I when I hear somebody talk about how their intentions are so good, but they're doing something that's harmful, I'm like, it's really bracing,
Yeah.
Anyway, we all laughed when you said liberal. So I'm curious why you laughed at the word liberal.
Do you want to take that one?
No, I think it's your turn.
I think we should all get a turn at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm into that.
Yeah, well, first off, I don't like to participate in bipartisan politics. I think they're focusing, both Republicans and Democrats are focusing on non-issues to keep people distracted from the real agenda at hand. Yeah. And so I think especially white liberals like to feel like they're doing a morally amazing, good job of
and
being
look
a
at
person.
me, I'm doing it.
Yay! Yeah, yay! Exactly. It's like you can say, I'm liberal, so I'm doing... It's like you can say, I'm liberal, so I'm doing the right things. What I'm doing must be right. And then you can just kind of not listen to anything else that's going on.
Yeah.
And I think once you are like, well, but I'm liberal. It's like, well, okay.
Well, it's kind of like earlier when we were saying, there's a need for constantly all of us educating ourselves. You can't just stop with, I'm a liberal. I voted. Okay, well, you voted.
That's
now,
a start, yeah.
It's a start.
That is a start.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. let's keep going.
Yeah, let's
Let's get that snowball going.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
When I think of liberal, I think of somebody who wants to, like you're saying, they want to mean well, or they want to look like they're meaning well.
I'd say the look is important.
The look is very important. That's why people, have their names on things when they give, or look at me, I'm donating. Look at me. It's always about that. Mm-hmm. But to me, and I've been really frustrated about this because these are my peers, right? Mm-hmm. Is they want to maintain the status quo. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it works for them.
Yeah.
It works for them.
Right.
I think it's that white savior thing. Mm-hmm. It makes a white person feel good to not be the bad white person.
Yeah.
You watch a movie like Green Book and you're like, oh, I'd be one of the good ones. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't.
Right. Well, look at the situation right now. Are liberals doing anything right now?
No.
No,
they're not.
No.
But they are taking up a lot of space. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
that is something.
Right.
So that's what they're doing.
So we have this critique of liberalism, right? That it maintains the status quo. There may be some people who maybe want to make more coalition or solidarity or allegiance with the issues that we're bringing up here.
Yes.
And want to listen to people of color, queer people, trans people. What do you think that they can do that is more valuable or is actually going to help, I guess? Because I don't see them budging. Mm-hmm. But there might be a few people who might listen. Mm-hmm. What do you think? And that's a heavy load there, but what do you think?
I'm not concerned about those people.
No? Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'm not interested in persuading anybody.
Okay.
If
too much work?
No, I just think that if people need persuading, then they're probably a lost cause. And I think that I would rather focus my attention on people that want to get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think it starts with yourself. If you actually want to change, you will find those avenues to change.
I agree.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to put in the work to find out what that is, I don't think there's hope for you.
Yeah.
That it's okay to disagree with that. I'm not interested in trying to persuade people that are really looking for reasons to stay where they are.
Yeah.
I would agree. Everything that I do and say is so that the people who already agree with me know that they're not the only one.
Okay. Yeah. For some reason, there's this narrative out there that, we need to, go across the aisle and shake the hand or, whatever. Or we need to listen to the other side, or both sides have a good argument to make, or something like that. And I don't really see that happening, right? Even with liberals, I feel like they're not really on my side, So when you all are describing that you want to build community with people who are already there or seeking it out, yeah, I can see that. And you're doing it. You're doing it right now. And I gotta say, I'm kind of inspired because I've been looking for people like you. Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah. So I was wondering if you're hooked up with any other sorts of radical communities here, if you're sharing ideas, if you're sharing kind of a different kind of economics. Sometimes there's a different economic plans that people have, like a free sort of economics, or like sharing, or skill shares, that sort of thing. Homeschooling. There's all kinds of radical ideas that people are starting to employ, and I was wondering if you're connected up with other people.
I would say I'm not connected up with any established homes, but I think I'm connected up with people who would be interested in establishing homes and things like that.
Okay.
So, and I wouldn't be surprised to find out that there were other places in Spokane where people are doing things like what we're doing here.
Yeah. Do you think it's kind of underground a little bit?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it is. I don't think there's probably a lot of, just like us, I think they're probably just trying to live their lives.
Right.
you know, and just do it in a different way.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I think. I am connected with some organizations that aren't really queer, but they're for Black people. So that I'm doing, but those aren't really, that's just building community, but not in like the home. Well, I mean, kind of the home sense, but not in the home sense of like, oh, we're living in the same house and we're doing these things together. But it's like they're kind of, for me, the outside of that. Like, these are the people I want to spend my outside of my home world with, you know? And they're less queer, but they're more, I mean, there are queer people within it, but it's more of the being Black in Spokane that I'm engaging with that. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm hoping to begin some like queer poetry scene and some stuff like that. I used to be a part of, I think both of us, but me more so, we were part of I was a huge part of the underground, well, huge is big, but I was a part of the underground music scene here in Spokane.
Really?
Yeah, for a little while, about 12 years ago, poetry. I did a lot of skill shares out of my home at that point, and then we did a lot. My ex and I did a lot of house shows, a lot of punk shows.
Okay, yeah.
They were mostly.
Is that like rent parties kind of thing?
What's a rent party?
It's you have a band and you charge a small cover charge so you can cover rent, basically.
We didn't do rent parties, but we should have.
Yeah, but it's a part of mutual aid.
Yeah,
basically.
no. Well,
Yeah.
we did things. It was very similar to that.
Yeah.
What we did though is we would get bands that were like touring through Spokane, and we would ask a donation at the door, or maybe I don't feel like we ever set a set price, but we would just say a donation, and the donation could be your time. Like, we weren't really worried about it, and all the money that was donated went to the bands. If I were to do it again, I would probably split it with the bands, just because there are a lot of things that you have to cover as the person running the house. But that built a lot of community.
The recycling, if nothing else.
Exactly. Real talk.
Yeah.
So, and we would have some really big shows and really fun things. And during that, we also I would organize like a Spokane branch of the Really, Really Free Market.
Okay.
That we would have going on, which actually, to me, that's the thing I think would be really fun to really just do in a park again, the way we did it. Because we just said, we're going to this park, we're going to set everything out, and anyone can come and get it, and anyone can't. And the amount of people that would just walked by and were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I can have this? Oh.
Really, really?
Yeah, really, really. Take it home with you, please. Because if not, it's coming to my house, and I brought it here.
Yes.
So, and that would be a thing I would like to start up again. I think that would start to build just people feeling more comfortable and able to talk to other people. I don't know. I liked the way that was working.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, it's almost like you have to convince people sometimes that it's really okay, or there's trust or love or material resources that you can access. It's a little heartbreaking actually,
because it's like you deserve it just for being a person here too.
Right. Right. You don't have to produce anything. No. You don't have to work really hard.
No.
Just be you.
You don't even have to smile.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Right.
You can just pick it up and walk away.
Right.
I don't care.
Right.
Because it's not really about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I don't know, that's the kind of thing I would like to continue to build and continue to have happen in Spokane.
Yeah. Space for having a bad day.
Yeah.
And who isn't having a bad day in Spokane?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Real talk. Yeah.
Well, what do you have you connected up with other communities here at all?
Yes and no. It's really difficult to try to get people to understand that I'm trying to live this. I just finished my undergrad in psych and gender, women's, and sexuality studies, and they were mostly younger people. So it is really staff and faculty that understand where I'm coming from, and I feel like have solidarity more than classmates necessarily.
Yeah.
And I'm not confused about what nonprofits are, but I also am trying to be more connected to Asian people here in Spokane, and I don't see them doing the praxis part of what I'm trying to do. in terms of home life, but I really want to try to make that equitable. It's an experiment. We'll see if that's even possible, but that's something that I'm trying to get them to understand, that we can only take care of each other. And I really want to keep doing that, because we can't serve a community if we're not taking care of ourselves and each other first. How are we supposed to drive anything? All we're doing is perpetuating white supremacy and imperialism, capitalism, etc. And I really would like to break away from that. I don't think it's possible within a nonprofit, but I would love to generate that within communities here.
So what is your critique about nonprofits?
They end up perpetuating systemic oppression, and there's not a lot of concern or care about not harming the people within the nonprofit. And
you mean workers who are
right,
or interns?
Exactly.
Okay.
Even the nonprofit here is the directors are so burnt out, and the work is not being distributed evenly or equitably, and it ends up harming people. And so how do we serve Asian people when the people within it are being harmed? So I think that's an important thing to consider. And I try to read as much as I can about how harm ends up being perpetuated in nonprofits. And it's a lot of anti-blackness, it's a lot of capitalism, it's the hierarchy.
It's interesting how competitive they are for grants, these little pots of money that foundations give out. And even if they have like really good missions, all these small nonprofits, it's like they're fighting for that little pot of money. It's really awful.
And I mean, to me, I don't understand how you can dismantle systems of oppression caused by the state when you're being funded by the state.
Interesting. Yeah. Personally, I'll take as much free money from the state as possible, but but is it ever really free? I don't know. There's always some strings attached. Also, not so much with the small nonprofits that you're talking about, which probably have a direct mission that's very focused on direct aid or something like that. But I noticed that big nonprofits often just pay their executive suite, as people call it, tons of money, just as if they were business people, like in a for-profit business. So personally, I think it's kind of a scam sometimes, because it takes away all that money that could be going to the actual work. I believe it is a justice issue to pay people for what they're worth. But when I look at some of the salaries of these people, I'm like, there's no way you can justify that. Like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, for instance. And the work itself maybe isn't that great. I see that all the time. Yeah. All right, let's turn this off.